Hi, I'm Tim, welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. If you enjoyed these videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel right here on Watchbox Reviews. I'd really appreciate it, and then I'd be able to deliver my best to your inbox on a daily basis. Every minute, every watch, right here on Watchbox Reviews YouTube. Also, if you like our watches, you can buy, trade, and sell. Check out anything you see on these videos with full accessories, high-res images, and pricing on thewatchbox.com, the internet's largest single-source repository of pre-owned and vintage luxury timepieces. That's thewatchbox.com, which pays for these pixels. Today, we're discussing the Audemars Piguet Jules Audemars Arnold's All-Stars After School Adventures Limited Edition. That's a mouthful, but this watch has a lot to offer. First and foremost, it's a 2007 model year limited edition of 100 pieces in rose gold. And yes, Arnold is that Arnold Schwarzenegger, promoting the kind of physical activity and fitness that helped him find fame, fortune, and renown. The After School All-Stars program is a long-running series, not just of activities and charitable sponsorships, but also watches from Audemars Piguet. And while Arnold has had his fair share of Royal Oak offshores, this may be the punchiest of the entire series, and it hails from the Jules Audemars dress watch collection. Never let it be said that the offshores have a monopoly on 8P attitude and stance. And you can see the watch does have stance on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist. It's a 43 millimeter watch, so a large timepiece by dress standards, to be sure, 43 across the round of the case, not including pushers or crown. It's a fairly thick 13.5 millimeters. I say thick for a dress watch, but given its outright size, I mean, it is bigger than a basic offshore. It can't be considered an absolute stack on the wrist, given the slope of the case and the bezel. It will fit underneath any jacket, sport, suit, or otherwise. A lug-to-lug, it's a big watch, though not overbearing. 51 millimeters. A lot of times when you have a watch over 50 millimeters and a smaller wrist like mine, you have to go by the shape of the case and the shape by the lugs to know if it's going to fit. And in this case, the lugs are nicely shaped, short, tapered. They thrust down sharply about the edges of the wrist. So you can see if you look at the watch in profile, the lugs really are short cropped, almost like an oversized pilot's watch, to help a large case fit a small wrist. You'll also note that the lugs are drilled rather close to the case so that the pivot point for the strap is actually inboard of the end of the lugs. You can pull it straight down a small wrist. You'll also note that this is made possible by a semi-conforming spring bar, a curved spring bar that allows the strap to have a very integrated look, very little daylight between strap and case, and yet unconstrained movement. The strap is medium rectangular scale alligator leather black with a contrasting golden stitch, folded edges. You'll note the underside in supple calfskin, and the watch equipped with a full AP logo style single fold deployant clasp for security against droppage while donning or removing at bedside. I should mention that the watch is large and heavy, so the addition of a deployant clasp here is absolutely appropriate, and I would even say downright mandatory. The watch in the hand has immense heft, very impressive aesthetically as well as physically. You know you're wearing something special even with your eyes closed. The combination of the cleft and rounded case flank is a handsome juxtaposition. As you can see, the lug feeds straight into the case, but it doesn't match the curvature of the case. There is a sharp break between the sculptural qualities and form of the lugs and the form of the case. So the watch has strong lines in spite of the fact that the dominant aesthetic is curvature. It does have those hard masculine creases judiciously applied all the way around. You can even note that there is a strong contrast between the hard angular lip of the bezel and the curvature of the satin finished case, made all the more so by the step between them and the contrast between the satin and the polish. Now you also note that there's a contrast between a vertical satin finish about the flanks of the lugs and a horizontal satin finish about the sweep of the case. A great deal of contrast at play on this watch to break up the monolithic mass of gold. Now when you get close to the dial, you can see that there is a lot going on. This is a highly complicated watch, but nicely balanced. There's a cruciform symmetry about the dial, and you can see the guilloche pattern is almost like a sunray spiral. If you can fill in the blanks mentally and fill in all those sub-registers to take a look at the pinwheel style motif radiating out from the center, it's quite appealing, and it contrasts nicely with its golden metallic tones against the matte black of the hour track. All polished and beautifully hand applied rose gold Roman numerals match rose gold hands at center. As you can see, the coloration of the chronograph seconds a little bit different than the leaf or foy style hands for the time of day. There is a dramatic sloped ray haut acting as a chaptering that unites the bezel with the dial base, and you can see it's a tachymeter scale for gauging the speed of an object between two fixed points of known distance, and of course a countersunk profile to each of the subregisters to visually break each one away from the plane of the center dial. I also like the fact that there's an overlap between the subregisters and both the center dial in gold and the matte black hour track. So that's quite handsome. The cropping is a little bit dissonant. It captures the imagination and holds the eye. You have a moon phase, you have a perpetual calendar, and you have a chronograph, each one operating within these four registers. When you turn the watch over, you'll note what appear to be screw-down chronograph pushers are actually simply highly stylized shouldered pushers to have a little bit more symmetry between the profile of the crown and the pushers. You didn't want to have these unduly spindly or thin pusher profiles, so AP puts a little bit of a bolstered shoulder at their root to bolster them, protect them from shearing, and add some visual mass. Now you'll note that the pushers are slightly higher in plane than the crown, and that's because this is a modular chronograph caliber. Turn the watch over, and you can see the distinctive engraved graphic of the Arnold's All-Stars After School Adventures limited edition late F series. It rolled over at 100,000, so this watch made in 2007, you know, right when it was made, thanks to the Audemars Piguet sequential serial numbers in alphanumeric. Now what's underneath? Well, it is a modular caliber 2326-2839. So what does that mean? It means a Jaeger-LeCoultre base caliber with a Dubois de Praz vertical clutch chronograph module, automatic winding, 38-hour power reserve. This was the later evolution of the original JLC 889, so it has the addition of a more efficient unidirectional winding system, ceramic rotor bearings that operate at high efficiency compared to the older lubricated steel balls, a free-sprung balance for shock resistance, and of course you have all of the attendant features brought by the modular perpetual calendar and chronograph complications. There's a lot of functionality about this watch. Just about the only thing I can say this watch isn't is discreet or water resistant. 20 meters water resistant, so you're going to want to take a flyer on getting this one wet. You've got an offshore for that after all. Otherwise, this is a full-featured watch. Your daily watch, if you're okay with this much gold and physical presence on the wrist, it's got personality, it has style, it has mass and class in equal measure, and with a perpetual calendar and a chronograph, there's something for you to play with just about every day to shorten boring meetings and amuse your friends at the dinner table. A watch that hits on all cylinders. Big, gold, complicated, and fine. It's also a refreshing change of pace from AP. We know the Royal Oak is great, the offshore is amazing, but frankly, this feels more like the kind of watch that built the heritage and the reputation of AP before the first Royal Oak was even penned in the 1970s. How did AP become part of the Holy Trinity? Well, great dress watches, and this one continues in that line. See it and own it on our website.